Hey there, it's Chris. Welcome back to the Spartan Ultra training program, where I have to admit, over the last couple weeks, I've had a really fun time doing some of those kind of obstacle kind of videos and whatnot, doing the trail running, doing the Irish table, the spear throw, the bar. I've had a really fun time doing those, but I think this time it's time to bring ourselves back into kind of what I planned on this whole video series being in the first place, and kind of get back to where we are training-wise, because frankly, we've now been training for about 4 months. And a funny thing happened in the last 4 months in that we're actually in shape now. If you look at it, we made it. We're there. We did what we had to do. I'm thinking back to where we started back in December. And if we're going to go by month, what our plans were, is if we just a quick recap, back in December, I hadn't done anything for several months leading into that. So December was made just to kind of get ourselves into routine again. It was nice, easy, short workouts. We started doing the Zone 2 stuff. In January, once we got ourselves kind of going, we started building out the mileage, make sure we can go a little further there. By the time February came around, we kept building our mileage through, but then we started adding those lunges in so we can start getting more kind of into hill kind of training. Because again, where I live is generally kind of flat in my immediate area. If I go out a little further, I get the hills and whatnot, but I'm generally flat around here. So I started pushing the lunges towards that to get ready for the hill work. And then most of March, actually on the weekends, was spent almost kind of cross training as those other videos were going out. Whereas rather than do the road runs, which I had done throughout winter because, well, we had a foot of snow on the ground everywhere else, we couldn't do anything but road runs around here. I started kind of cycling on the weekends, started doing trail runs on the weekends, started kind of working slightly different muscle groups in the body. And frankly, all of a sudden we got in shape. It's great. I feel good. If I want to, I can just go out. I can do a half marathon run, no problem. It's magic. It feels awesome. But slight problem. We still have 4 weeks to go until the race. So what do we do from now until then? And that's kind of what I cover on. That's kind of what I want to cover on this video here. So if you watched the very first video I put out way back in December, go back to my master plan on that. I had mentioned before, my largest week of the year, largest week load I wanted to do, the largest run I want to do, or largest workout in video I want to do, was going to be 3 weeks before the event is going to take place. So theoretically, next week is it. I have 1 more week now to push out and keep doing what I'm doing. I'm not going to change anything fundamentally from this week to the next. It is Easter coming up, so that may make things interesting because of that, in terms of like the longest workout I'm going to do. But generally speaking, next week I'm going to continue what I'm doing. The very last week leading into the race is going to be a lot of kind of really kind of light things. It's just kind of moving enough to kind of keep the muscles active, but I don't want to break anything down. So really, what's going to happen in that 2 to 3 weeks out from the race? Because frankly, the way I plan those weeks playing out is probably going to be very different from the way anybody else is going to do anything. So any advice I'm giving here is take it with a grain of salt. If you choose to do what I'm doing, that's fine. If you want to do something completely different, that's probably actually normal. But the way my 2 to 3 weeks out is going to play, once I get these bigger workouts in next week, is I had mentioned, I think it was like episode 3 when I was doing the Zone 2 training one, or kind of first introducing Zone 2 training, where the goal was going to be running slow to run fast. And that got the job done. The very first week I went out and did these, we were doing like 3.5 more 4-mile runs, and my Zone 2 time was around a 10-minute per mile. Earlier this week, to show progress, went and did a 7-mile run, so roughly double the distance, and did it around a 9:30 pace. So yeah, did double the distance, and 30 seconds per mile faster. So building up the mitochondria, that worked. However, in the final weeks leading up into the event, it's no longer as important to build those anymore. And I had said the downside of doing Zone 2 was it doesn't push the heart, it doesn't push the circulatory system really as much as doing the slower runs. So I had said before on that video that I'm actually going to shrink these workouts down. If I'm doing like 7-mile per run, like weekday runs right now, I'm going to shrink that down to like maybe a 5-mile run or something, and I'm going to do those fast again. I don't need to worry as much about Zone 2. So at least one of the workouts, one of the 2 main runs during the week, is just going to be shorter. It's going to be faster. I want to push the heart. I want to push the circulatory system. I want to as I had phrased it before, I want to re-widen those highways again so I can get the nutrients to the cells and to that, so we can now feed the mitochondria that we have built in there. So that's going to be one of those 2 runs per week for those 2 weeks kind of leading in. The other of those runs, I will still use zone 2 as a base. However, I kind of want to touch upon a number of other muscles in here that may not have been used too much during the running days and whatnot. So I might go between a telephone pole or 2, or between 2 telephone poles. I may just go and start running backwards a little bit. I may go do a little kind of sideways stuff during theirs. I might do striders between stuff. I'm going to be throwing a number of these other kind of little things into this zone 2 run. So it's not going to be a pure zone 2. It's going to push the heart rate up a little bit doing these types of things. I'm going to look like an idiot doing it if there are people walking their dogs and whatnot going by, but it's going to be what it's going to be. The goal of doing these types of awkward movements during the run is I want to touch upon any of the kind of little stabilizer muscles in your legs that you're not using if you're always just going straight. Again, if we're trail running, we're always going to be hitting rocks kind of weird on the ground. We might be hitting things there. We might be going down things, might need to go down hills kind of sideways a little bit sometimes, depending on the terrain we're going around, depending what we're doing. This isn't a road run race. So I want to kind of at least get a little blood flow to all of these little stabilizer muscles in the legs as we go through. So between 2 and 3 weeks out from the race, I'm going to be adding these types of things into here, going backwards, sideways, whatnot, just to get a little blood flow to those muscles. I don't want to focus on those things. These are going to be like really kind of short, maybe 30-second, 1 minute kind of spans. Then we go back to the usual kind of slow jogging again, kind of slow running again. But it's just enough to hit all those little stabilizer muscles and wake those muscles back up again so they're ready to go come race day. Because last thing I want to do is not hit any of these types of muscles. And then also, once you get on the trails over there and going down some of these ravines, you're going up some of these hills, you need to call upon these muscles. And I want to have them at least woken up a little bit. It's like if you've ever broken a bone before, you have like a cast on there, you're not supposed to move for like 6 weeks or whatever, and your muscle kind of atrophies for a while. It takes a little bit of time to finally be able to move it again and do stuff. It's the same kind of thing. If I'm not using things, the blood flow is not used to going in there. So I just want to get a little bit of blood into those areas. That said, on the food side of things, diet side, things are going to change a little bit. And for that, I'm going to pop up again, kind of like I did on the barbed wire crawl. I'm going to pop up 2 images on the side. I have one image here with me before. This is going to be my very first ultra I did. This is me from before the first ultra. And this is one here on the side here is after I'd completed that one. Yes, I'm very happy in that image. But that's me after I'd completed the ultra. And you're going to see I'm a little bit skinnier on that after photo than I am on the first one. So we're going through an ultra marathon distance types race. It's on trails, it's doing obstacles. We're going to be burning through a lot of material and a lot of nutrients as we go through this. And although we're going to try to feed ourselves throughout the event, we're going to try to take in all this stuff we're dealing with. We're going to try to put the electrolytes back in. We're going to try to put the carbs back in. We're going to try to put these things in during the course of the race. Odds are it's still going to wind up being a losing battle in the end. And we're still going to lose weight as this goes on. Now that said, the images I had up there, they are, my first ultra was a 90-degree day. So, and I'm notoriously bad at heat running and heat weather stuff. So part of that weight loss was just me being me. But in order to prepare for that, what I'm going to do is it's starting with that like kind of anywhere from 15 to 20 days out from the race. It's not that I'm going to be eating more, just kind of stuff, just like willy-nilly to build up weight. Instead, if I'm already kind of used to doing snacking stuff at night, or if you're used to kind of maybe snacking things at night, maybe have just a little bit more of the same stuff you've been having. If you're making something yourself for dinner, you'll have like maybe a little bit extra for that each time. If you make yourself like a lunch for whatever you're used to eating right now, just like increase the size of the portion just a little bit each day, just so your body kind of gets used to now packing away more of the energy that it might need. We're not adding new stuff to the list because we don't want our body to start building up or trying to break down new stuff at this point in time. We want to keep things as routine as we can. But if we wait until like the very last week to put stuff on, I don't know if you've done this on vacation, you go away for like a long weekend or something, you can eat as much as you want. If you're like me, your body doesn't really store that away. It sees that as extra stuff. It doesn't know what to do with it, and it will just expel that extra stuff you've eaten for like 2 or 3 days extra. So you can have whatever you want for real quick. It's gone. It passes through the system, either burns off or passes through. But if you slowly build up over time, your body will get used to the new kind of stuff you're building in, and it will start pouring some of that stuff away or storing some of that stuff away within you that then you can use during the race as it comes up. So yes, it's nice having good washboard abs here, but going into the race, it is nice to have a little bit of something down here to build off of as you go through this course, because there's going to be a lot of physical activity in here, and you want to have the building blocks ready for that. So diet-wise, things are going to be going up. Fitness-wise, we're going to start kind of trailing off a little bit. Like I said, I'm going to be going faster on those runs, but they're not going to be as far. My distance runs on the weekend. Yes, next weekend, maybe anywhere from like 16 to 20 miles, if I can get that in, or like a 50 to 60 mile bike ride, depending which it's going to be. But say that's 3 weeks out. Say 2 weeks out, I may drop that down to like a 10-mile run. The week before that, my distance run might be like a 7-mile kind of flattish kind of thing, real nice and easy. And then the final week is just ease our way in there. But no, we made it. We're at this point in time, if you've been following, if you started back like in Thanksgiving time, like I did, you're in shape at this point. You're ready to go. If you need to, you can go out and do this thing tomorrow. You'll be very unhappy if you do it tomorrow, but you're physically there. So now it's just a matter of, my motto for April is generally this: don't be dumb. So we're not going to try to injure ourselves on this. Like I said, we are hitting new muscle groups on some of these kind of either running backwards or sideways stuff, but we're not hitting it too hard. I'm not going to do all out sprints for stuff. We're going to stay either like the top of zone 3, zone 4, and that's about it. We're not going to zone 5. We're not trying to kill ourselves during these types of other activities we're adding in, but it's just kind of light touches to kind of keep all the muscles we're using kind of stimulated and ready to go. And that's really it. After that, at this point now, again, physically we're there. So now really all we need to worry about is the mental game going in. And that's, I think, where a couple of the next sessions are going to be going on this kind of thing I have, is how to mentally get ourselves in the game to continue and finish this course. Because this will test you not just physically, but mentally in ways you probably haven't been tested before on some of the other workouts and some of the other events and whatnot you've done, if this is going to be your first one. So stay tuned for that next week, as we're going to start going to that game. But until then, and until we get to that point, congrats, you did it, you're in shape, and enjoy.